Thank you, everyone, for attending. My name is Chris Rogers, and I'm a board member on NJFOG. The New Jersey Foundation for Open Government congratulates its 2012 NJFOG Lift Award recipients. Nominations were considered in 3 categories: journalists, political leaders, and citizen activists, all of whom contributed meaningful efforts to encourage a government entity to conduct its business in a more transparent way. We have 3 different sets of awards that are going to be issued tonight, and our first is in the area of citizen activists. This year's recipients are John Burry, John, if you'd like to say a few words.
Okay, well, just a couple of things. My mayor has also gotten one of these. I'd like to recognize her, Kathy Fiamingo. I don't think she's here, but she did open up Kenilworth a bit. We don't have time limits on how much long we could speak. We don't get abused. We get and we have our meetings. I think the reason she got that was we have our meetings televised now, and we're just generally more open. We're tiny. I mean, Kenilworth, 15 million budget, 8,000 people, but she's done quite a bit for it, and I think I'll probably present her award when I go there. As far as me, I don't really feel I earned this. I find myself as an end user of what you guys have done. When I came into this, it was I was surprised at how much was really out there. I mean, it's all out there. Now, if I can make a suggestion, there's, like with these red light cameras, when you do something wrong, they send you something a couple weeks later. That really should happen in New Jersey, too. I mean, it's all out there, but there's a lot going on that really somebody should pick up on, and there's a lot of illegal stuff. So it's very nice it's out there, but if nothing happens about it, then there's an issue there. And that's pretty much it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, John. The next award recipient in the category of citizen activist is Veronica Sykes. Veronica is a resident of Mount Arlington in the county of Morris, and she's unable to join us today, so we're going to be accepting her award on her behalf. So thank you, Veronica, for all you do. Our next recipient is Frances Day from Morris County. Frances.
Thank you so much for this award. I think this is a wonderful organization. It has really shined a light on a lot of issues that we need to have open government, to work for transparency, and using Oprah as a way to hold people accountable, to make sure that they're spending our money appropriately. Oprah bills. It's our money, and I want to see what they're spending our money on. I've done our legal bills. It started due to the unlawful censure of Maureen Castriata, and due to the board continuing to say, we're right, we spent tens of thousands of wasteful dollars that could have been spent. I also Oprah the transfer reports because, as a lot of you know, it's a shell game. And we are trying to find the money, and where are they actually spending it is a challenge. I encourage everyone to go to meetings. As my question was about the time limit, I now have an avenue that if I continue to get the gavel and other people do not, I will videotape it, and then that will show that, you know, there is bias and they are limiting my free speech. So thank you, NJFOG. And I hope everyone continues to become informed and be active. Thank you.
Our next recipient in the area of citizen activists is David Burnett from Gloucester County. David also was not able to join us today, so NJFOG will be accepting his award on his behalf. Our last recipient in the area of citizen activists is Michael Peron.
Well, I've been interested in government accountability for a long time, and when I first started out, I didn't have any clue what I was doing. Mostly what I learned from John Paff, and then later on, I met Tina Renna, and because of Tina Renna, I learned that a good way to find that accountability was to look at the checks that the government write, and who they write them to, and what amounts. And we started doing check registers online, and then in the last couple of years, Tina helped me find a local government with a mayor who was interested in open government and amenable to it. And she introduced me to Mayor Kathy Fiamingo in Kenilworth, and we did an open government website there as a model for other municipalities. And at that municipality, you can click a button and see a graph of spending with any particular vendor that goes back 12 years as a bar chart. One click, and you've got the information that you're looking for. We also do the same thing for descriptions of the spending. So you can click, let's say they're buying paper. You could click on paper and see the spending that they do on that. I think that this is a good direction to go for municipalities in the future, that they can put this information online. It'll do a couple things. It'll reduce the number of OPA requests because the information is already on the website where people can find it. It will, I think accountability pays for itself. People will go online and see what they're spending with a particular vendor and say, hey, I could do that cheaper. And it'll empower citizens to keep track of what's going on with their government. One of the things I noticed right away doing this for Kenilworth Borough was the dramatic difference between the check registers that I was looking at prior to Mayor Kathy Fiamingo and the check registers after. Prior, entire sequences of check numbers just missing. There's no missing check numbers there, so I really want to just give a shout out to Mayor Kathy Fiamingo. I wish she was here. She certainly deserves her award as well. And I thank you all very much for giving me this award today. Thank you.
The next category that NJFOG awarded was the area of journalists. We have one sole recipient this year in the area of journalists. And ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Fred Snowflack of the Bergen Record.
Thank you very much. It's nice to get an award like this. I've only been with the Bergen Record a relatively short time. I was with the Daily Record in Morris County writing as the editorial page editor, and I believe it was my work there that is the reason I got this award. If newspapers are not going to write about open government and the need for access to government data, I really don't know who is going to write about that. That's really what newspapers... Thank you. That's really one of the things newspapers can still do. And admittedly, it's not easy these days. Newspapers are shrinking. They're not as fully staffed as they used to be. But that doesn't mean you should sort of like give up the watch, so to speak, on trying to take care of local government. I'll just tell you one quick little story. We did do a lot of writing about the censure of Mrs. Castriata. But even before that, there was a and I know this has come up a few times. We wrote some editorials about the Denville Board of Education. Like many boards of education, they had one of these insidious rules that they said the president and only the president was allowed to speak at board meetings, or allowed to speak at all on behalf of the board. So if anyone asked a school board member even an innocuous question, he or she would say, oh, I can't talk about that. Only the president could talk about that. And when someone actually violated that, quote unquote, who spoke out to the newspaper, and this individual actually got in trouble because imagine the Denville School Board was trying to enforce a gag rule on one of its own elected members. And I mean, and this is, granted, this was like low-hanging fruit. It was very easy to write about that, and we did, but I mean, we had a number of snide editorials about that. So that's type of the stuff I tried to do at the Daily Record and hopefully continue to do at the Bergen Record. So thank you very much.
The last category of award recipients is political leaders. We have 3 candidates that were nominated in this area, and unfortunately it appears 2 of them were not able to join us, so we'll be accepting their awards on their behalf. The first is Kenilworth Mayor Kathy Fiaminga. Ladies and gentlemen. Second was South Orange Mayor Mr. Alex Torpy. Ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, for our 2012 FOG Lift Awards, a recipient has arrived. This person was selected in the area of political leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you the South Orange Mayor, Alex Torpy.
Thank you. I'll keep this very brief, but I do want to make sure to point out something. Someone mentioned something earlier about a really wonderful clerk who believes in open government, and I can already see her blushing a little bit over there. I'm fortunate enough in South Orange to have a clerk who is totally committed to open government, and there's no way that this would happen or that any of the other great things would happen in South Orange in regards to open government if we didn't have a clerk who is so committed to it. So maybe we could give a brief round of applause to Robin Klein. It kind of goes along a theme that I've learned more and more, sometimes in a very difficult way over the past year and a half, which is that no one person can accomplish anything by themselves. You always need a coalition or a team or a group of people who are willing to fight for the same cause that you're interested in. And I've had the pleasure and sometimes very interesting opportunities to meet folks who are really interested in open government. It seems to be every citizen, every resident I meet is interested in open government. They're interested in finding ways to be more interactive, to understand our budgets better, to be able to participate in what we do more. And then on the other hand, you see elected officials who routinely talk about, being committed to open government. Yet, I think if you ask people, do you feel like your governments on a local, county, or state levels, are totally responsive, there's going to be a gap between that. So there's something that I think we all have a responsibility to do, and I think NJFOG plays a huge role in making that happen. But even just as activists or even just as voters, making sure that when we go to the polls, that it's not there's a lot of benefit and value to having amazing appointed officials and staff people who are interested in open government. But at the end of the day, if the political leadership is not really genuinely committed to it, it's going to be hard to move these things forward. So I'm excited to be part of this, and I hope whatever we can do in South Orange to implement open government initiatives and to try and advocate and encourage for others to do so, we're happy to do, and we're here for the cause. So thank you.
Lastly, we have a special guest with us tonight. This person was elected to the New Jersey State Senate in 2005. She's currently the Senate Majority Leader for the state of New Jersey, and she serves on the Senate Budget and Senate Judiciary Committees. She also sits on the Jersey Israel Commission, the New Jersey Historical Commission, and the State Legislative Services Commission. Through her career in public service, she has devoted many hours to her community and to her local, statewide, and national organizations that seek to improve the lives of men, women, and children. She's been active in the Red Cross, Shelter Our Sisters, in which she's a founding member, the Bergen Family Center, AARP Teaneck Chapter, the New Jersey Network of Women Elected Officials, the National Organization of Women Legislators, and the National Council of Jewish Women. She is a longtime member of Temple Emeth in Teaneck. Ladies and gentlemen, our award recipient in the area of political leaders is Senate Majority Leader, Senator Loretta Weinberg.
Glasses. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I'm sorry the other two political leaders are not here. I was almost going to say I came because I heard there was a good box lunch. So, and there was, by the way. I really want to thank you. First of all, thank this organization, and then thank all of you for this award, and particularly the citizen activists, because you are the folks who are the first line of the eyes and ears for what is going on in your communities, what we as legislators need to do to enable you to have accountability over the government you own. And then to the press, I'm delighted that my own hometown newspaper, the Bergen Record, even though you're comparatively new there, I know you're going to do great work. And I will be talking a little later about the new Oprah and OPMA bills that we're working on, but the vice president of the Bergen Record, Jennifer Borg, has been a real partner in the development of this legislation, along with the New Jersey Press Association, and I see the ACLU sitting here, another partner, along with the League of Municipalities. And we're getting to the end of a rather tortuous, arduous road as we've lumbered along to get both of these pieces of legislation updated. And most recently, we had a joint meeting with the ACLU and the League of Municipalities, and much to my surprise, they actually got together and agreed on some substantive differences and how to work them out. So I am, and all of you should be indebted to both of these groups for working so hard on moving this legislation along. So I think we're getting there, and I'm hoping that by the end of the year we will see them passed. Having them signed might be another issue, but we'll get to that in time. You know, I'm a firm believer that good government is open government. And without it, without the press coverage, without the citizen activists, we won't have good government in our municipalities or in our state. And interestingly enough, I'll share a couple of anecdotes, because in my own town, I'm really kind of a citizen activist. You know, every so often I'll show up at a council meeting in Teaneck, where I used to be on the council, to talk about things, and much to my chagrin, I find my own community so lacking in many ways. I'm not telling any tales out of school, because I told it to them publicly. And let me just, I'm going to share one little anecdote. Teaneck moved from a 5 to a 4-day work week with not for furloughs. Nobody was furloughed, not to save money. They can't even, it's kind of funny, they can't even turn off the utilities because the municipal building is attached onto the library, which is open 7 days a week. So they can't even do that. Only in government would that take place. But we couldn't figure out how this switch took place. Where, you know, and every time we asked, a citizen would come to me, they'd ask the council, what happened here? How did we move from a 5 to a 4-day work week? We're closed on Fridays, the exception of the police department, of course, and the DPW. And I finally made an Oprah request. I would like the ordinances and resolutions which changed the work schedule in Teaneck from a 5 to a 4-day work week. And the municipal clerk wrote back and said, oh, that's too much research. I don't have to do that. So it was like, I beg your pardon. And then not too long a length of time, it was like, well, because it's you, I'll give you the information. Which, by the way, I talked about at a public meeting. It shouldn't be because it's me. I mean, I made that request, and I made it very clear, not as a state senator, but as a tax-paying citizen of the township of Teaneck. And I finally found out what they did. They adopted new personnel policies. So all the ordinance said was, we're adopting new personnel policies. And buried in the new personnel policies was that the manager can change the work week from 5 to 4 days. So there is not any citizen that would have been able to give input because they wouldn't have known that this major personnel change was taking place. And that's what really startled to me. You know, and when I made my speech before the council, I said, you know, I hope this was not done intentionally to obfuscate what was going on here and keep the public from giving its input. Well, they do something else in Teaneck, which I think is done in a lot of towns, is the public is never engaged. You give whatever your input is, and they don't answer you until they have closed the public session. And then, of course, if they might not answer you at all, and you have no chance to come back and raise your hand and say, hey, you didn't answer my question, or they might answer a question you didn't ask. I'm sure you've all witnessed that. But so, you know, I go through some of these personal travails along with all the common members of the public. But something happened yesterday. I want to move to state government for a minute, which really startled me. Now, I know you're a nonpartisan group, and this has nothing to do with Democrats and Republicans, but it does have to do with the office of governor, which, you know, in the state of New Jersey, we have a very powerful office, constitutionally, a powerful office. Yesterday, the governor vetoed a bill which required certain monthly financial reports, and I'm going to read to you from a little bit from Bergen Record Online, unbiased reporting. Governor Christie has proposed slapping a $10,000 fine on those who release New Jersey revenue data outside of the official reports from his office. Now, I hear a gasp in the audience, and there should be a gasp in the audience. I've lived through a lot of disagreements with the governor, but this is really the most startling of all, that the only kind of financial data will come from the office of the governor, which, by the way, becomes the official data, but it is a direct reaction to his not liking the Office of Legislative Services responding to legislators who ask what's happening in the financial field. If this is not a call to action, I don't know what is. But the day that we are going to be living in a state where if somebody gets access to financial data, they are not allowed to release it because they'll be fined $10,000. This is not a state that all of us can live in. And I can assure you that we are going to make a long, hard attempt to override this. What he did was, let me explain to you, he used a conditional veto. He took the bill, which requires this monthly financial data, and he conditionally vetoed it, turned it around, which he has a right to do under the Constitution, and said, if anybody releases data, it's a $10,000 fine. We in the legislature have the ability, if we can get the votes, to override that veto. So I hope you'll keep your eye on that, and when we get ready to do that override, that you will contact your own legislators, no matter who they are, in either the Senate or the Assembly, and I will urge them on a bipartisan manner to stand up to the fact that we know we have a strong governor, both constitutionally and personally, but he's not yet been named the king or the czar of the state of New Jersey, and we're going to have to take a strong stand. So if you think I'm a little exercised about that, I am. But you are the folks who help educate us as legislators, who help educate the public, and I would hope that New Jersey FOG at some point can come into other sections of the state and run some seminars for citizen activists, people who really need to know that they're not alone and they're not weird and they're not crazy because they're asking their government questions, which is... Thank you. And just one word about Alex Torpy. I'm sorry in particular that he's not here because we did set up a meeting which my staff had to take over for me, but I write for an online little blog called Blue Jersey. And Alex wrote an article on open government and what he wanted to do in his own community. And it was terrific. I was really surprised when I found out what a young mayor he is. So he is well-deserved of this award also. So thank you to all the citizen activists. Thank you to the journalists, and you know we're naming one of these the Martin O'Shea Award in honor of Martin O'Shea, who came to my office with Jennifer Borg when we first got to work on updating these bills. So thanks for everything all of you do, and thanks for the award.